Hi everybody, Dana here again with more Tuesday tips for leaders of volunteers. Today, talking about why you should have volunteer management software. This is part one. Part two will be how to choose it, but I want to cover how you can make the case to get investment in your agency for new technology that is VMS, volunteer management software. And here are the main reasons. It helps save you time and money. It saves everybody time and money in the long run. Whatever amount of time, and this can help you make the case, but track how much is manual in-person data entry, how much is chasing down pieces of paper that files are only kept in paper records, or there's maybe different departments have different Excel sheets where they're tracking different volunteer activities, but they're not all connected together. Or someone's also using a Google Calendar or G Suite to track things that way. And none of those are inherently bad or terrible. They're just not as efficient. That's not the most coordinated way to keep records and to keep track of volunteer activities. It's served people for decades. There's reasons sometimes to use a lower level or analog technology to do record keeping, but for the vast majority of leaders of volunteers, it's just going to save a ton of your time and volunteers' time and any other team members, staff members, contractors' time to have a central, overlapping, complex, nice, easy, neat database where everything is there and you can report out and collect the kind of information that is going to be most important to your mission. So that's number one. Number two, because of that, it helps communication and information sharing. I've heard a lot of instances from peers lately of frustration of, well, somebody prints out a paper calendar and they put it up in the pantry of the food bank, and then nobody else knows what's going on when people make changes just to that paper calendar and it never gets into the database, or we don't even have a database yet. So that can be a really common frustration, is how do you share information if it's only kept on hard copies, or someone has the Excel sheet somewhere on their laptop, and even if it's something in the cloud that can be shared like a Google Calendar, it's still not able to make really complex reports on what is really happening with volunteers. It's also just better record keeping in general and better data management to be able to easily report out from the database, from the VMS. So depending on which one you get and what you need in your agency, which we'll cover in part two of these videos, there's usually a functionality to have reports printed out, or data visualization to make something look really interesting and cool and shiny in a graph or some other visual expression of trends that are happening. But it really helps you stay on top of and be proactive with catching a problem, someone's missing too many shifts, something great is happening. You're seeing a sudden interest or uptick in this kind of volunteer work, or you're getting more requests for this kind of task to be covered, and you can catch up with that a lot more easily and respond to it a lot more quickly when you have an automated system and VMS software, volunteer management software system. Now, volunteer management software would be goofy, but when you have a VMS. It also helps with privacy, confidentiality, and security if you have, whether it's cloud-based or an internal server, but you have this protected behind security measures. And again, different VMS companies have different levels of this, and that'll be in part two we'll talk about. But it's inherently a lot more secure to have contact information, confidential information about clients or the community or the team members themselves be in a database than it is to have loose papers in a drawer or an Excel spreadsheet that who knows when it's in date or out of date for addresses, or a Google Calendar that maybe accidentally shares too much information, or somebody edits the wrong thing at the wrong time and that information is lost forever, which I've seen happen. I've seen that happen. So there's that security and kind of confidentiality, privacy aspect and advantage to having VMS. It's also a lot easier when you have this kind of system, this kind of software, to report out for funding. Many funders and grants require, at a bare minimum, the number of volunteers you have and the number of hours. That's not the ceiling, that's the floor. You shouldn't just be aiming for that. That's where we start. And then, depending on the VMS you have and the kind of work you're doing, most of these software systems are capable of expressing and reporting out. And because of this many people doing this volunteer task, we had this result in the community that supported our mission and improved circumstances with a positive impact in this way. So it really, again, makes everybody's job easier, working smarter instead of working harder. It cuts down on frustration. It improves information sharing. It improves communication. It's better for privacy and confidentiality and people feeling that their information is safe. And this is also kind of my final reasoning behind this. Ties into another Tuesday Tip video, which I will link at the end of this, and put the link for more dives into this kind of information in the video description. But it's a great return on investment to have this kind of technology added to your agency. There may or may not be a big budget cost. Again, there's a huge range depending on what you want or need the software to do. But I know that it can be hard to have the conversation to even get minimal volunteer services resources. So hopefully this helps you make the case. And I'll link to how to calculate return on investment for investing in volunteer resources at the end of this video. The other pause that can get in the way of making this case, or the concern that it very commonly comes up, is that volunteers won't adapt to technology, or other team members or paid employees won't want to use it. And Liza Dyer has a great bunch of priceless advice in a long interview we did together, but also I'll link her quick 5-6 minute Tuesday tips on it's probably not as hard as you think to get people to adapt to technology, especially if it's pretty easy to learn, which a lot of these are. And once they realize how much more time it's going to make them just after that quick little learning curve and a little bit of time invested up front, changing things over and learning new things, but then most people will see the benefits in the long run. So I hope this helps you make the case for getting volunteer management software for your agency, or helping make the case to upgrade different types of record keeping and data management systems. And we'll see you for part 2 next week, Tuesday Tips on how to choose, how to make that choice. I hope you enjoy these videos as much as I enjoy making them for all of you. Subscribe, hit like, and hit the little bell alert symbol down below when you want to know exactly when new videos are uploaded. Every week we've got these Tuesday tips, and about every month or two I've got a really great deep dive Priceless advice interview with someone from our sector and our community. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.